Sydney Colson didn't just leave a dynasty. She walked into chaos with purpose. After 2 rings with the Las Vegas Aces, Colson's jumped to the Indiana Fever stunned fans and insiders alike. Why would a proven champion trade dominance for rebuilding? The answer wasn't about basketball. It was about belief. Colson saw a chance to shape something deeper than a win-loss record, the soul of a team. She saw potential in Caitlin Clark.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
Not just as a rookie phenom, but as a symbol of how quickly the league can turn on its stars. And when she admitted she was paid to turn on Clark, that wasn't a confession, it was a challenge to the machine. Colson's impact in Indiana is personal, cultural, and deeply intentional. Her leadership has redefined what support looks like, not in post-game interviews, but in real behind-the-scenes care. She defied expectations by backing Clark instead of playing into a false rivalry. In doing so, she exposed the tired tropes the league often leans on: division, drama, and polished performance. Colson doesn't fit the mold, and that's exactly why her presence matters. By choosing a harder path, she's creating room for vulnerability, truth, and resistance in a league still learning how to value them. Sydney Colson didn't just drop a quote. She detonated a truth bomb. One moment, the WNBA was humming along with its carefully curated storylines, media-ready players, and a shiny new face for the future in Caitlin Clark. And then Colson, with her signature calm, chaos energy, peeled the lid right off the whole operation. She admitted it. She said the quiet part out loud. She was paid to turn on Caitlin Clark. The league's response? Crickets. But the internet? The fans? The players watching from the sidelines? Everyone knew something huge had just been confirmed. This wasn't about money. It wasn't about clout. It was about the uncomfortable truth that not everyone in the league is being treated the same, and some are being used as characters in a storyline they never agreed to be in. Colson's revelation exposed more than just a strategy. It pulled the curtain back on the underlying tension between media narratives and authentic relationships within the league. She didn't say Caitlin Clark was the problem. She said the way Clark was being positioned, while other players were quietly being nudged into opposition roles, was the problem. And here's the kicker. Instead of going along with it, Sydney Colson walked away from the most dominant team in the league. She left the Las Vegas Aces, 2-time champions, stacked roster, star-studded bench, and joined the Indiana Fever, a team deep in a rebuild, a team people weren't expecting to win anything, a team that needed someone like her. And she didn't do it for headlines. She did it for purpose, for mentorship, for culture. This is what makes Colson different. She wasn't looking for comfort or spotlight. She wasn't chasing another ring or trying to boost her stats. She saw a team drowning in expectations, a rookie thrown into a firestorm of fame, and a league hungry for a savior. And she said, "I'm going where I can actually make a difference." From day one in Indiana, her impact was undeniable. Not as a scorer or star player, though she can hoop, but as a leader. Someone who brought joy, accountability, and an unshakable sense of identity to a team that was still figuring itself out. Her approach to leadership isn't loud or bossy. It's real. It's human. It's full of empathy, laughter, and that disarming humor that makes people feel seen, even in the middle of a losing streak. Colson leads by connecting, by caring, and by being unapologetically herself, no matter the pressure to play a role. And in a league that often rewards polished media personalities and digestible storylines, Sydney Colson is something else entirely. She's real. She's queer. She's funny, vulnerable, honest, and completely uninterested in fitting into any box. When she talks, people listen, not because she demands the room, but because she speaks with truth. And her truth cuts through the noise. Her confession about being paid to play a certain narrative didn't come from a place of bitterness. It came from a place of frustration. She knows what this league could be. She believes in what it stands for. But she also sees the politics behind the curtain, the favoring of certain faces, the subtle erasure of others, the pressure to conform. And she's not going to pretend it's not happening. Because here's what Colson understands. When the league picks favorites, everyone loses. It creates division. It creates fake rivalries. And it puts unfair pressure on players like Caitlin Clark, who are just trying to play the game, while setting up veterans like Colson to be cast as antagonists in a narrative that benefits no one. But instead of feeding that machine, Colson flipped the script. She embraced Clark. She mentored her. She defended her publicly. She reminded everyone that growth happens in community, not in competition. Her support for Clark was real from day one. While social media tried to spin every glance and every foul as tension, Colson kept it grounded. She knew what the league was doing. She had seen the way Clark was being pushed forward and how veterans were being asked to take the fall. And she refused to be part of it. She refused to pretend that this was just about basketball. It wasn't. It was about culture, about protecting players from being turned into narratives, about fighting back against a system that still struggles to fully embrace queerness, individuality, and players who don't fit the classic brand mold. And she's been pushing back for years. Long before this current controversy, Colson was already carving out space in the league for something deeper. She's been using humor, media, and her own voice to shift how women athletes are seen, not just as players, but as people. Her show, Unsupervised with TP, is proof of that. It's not just funny, it's disarming. It lets players be weird, be real, be themselves. No filter, no polish, just raw, smart, hilarious conversations that reveal more about team culture than any post-game interview ever could. And through that work, Colson has done more than build a personal brand. She's helped reshape the brand of the WNBA. Slowly, consistently, authentically, she's shown that visibility matters. That being queer in public, being goofy, being vulnerable, it's not a weakness. It's leadership. It's representation. And when players see someone like Colson thriving as herself, it opens the door for everyone else to breathe a little easier. That's real influence. Not just social media clout or jersey sales. Cultural influence. And now, she's turning that same influence toward dismantling the silent dynamics that have been quietly steering the league. The unspoken favoritism. The pressure to pick sides. The performative unity that dissolves the second a controversial moment goes viral. Colson is asking better questions. Why do we promote one player so heavily while ignoring the work others are doing to hold the team together? Why is authenticity celebrated only when it's brand safe? And who gets to decide what kind of players represent the future of the W? These questions don't have easy answers. But the fact that she's asking them publicly, that's a shift. And the players watching her speak out, they're paying attention. Because Colson isn't reckless. She's thoughtful. She's earned her stripes. And when she speaks, it's with the weight of lived experience. She's not burning the house down. She's pointing out where the foundation is cracked and asking why we keep pretending it's not. And in doing that, she's also redefining what success looks like. Not just on the court, but in the culture of women's basketball. It's not just about trophies anymore. It's about truth, identity, purpose. Because when you lead with authenticity, you build something that lasts longer than a season. And that's what Colson's legacy will be. Not just the game she played, but the game she changed. Her journey from the top of the league to a rebuilding team, from being quietly positioned as a foil to being a full-blown truth teller. It's one of the most important arcs in modern women's basketball. She's showing a generation of players that it's not just okay to be yourself, it's necessary. It's how culture moves, how teams grow, how leagues evolve. And yes, it's messy. Calling out the league, challenging media narratives, mentoring a superstar while exposing the machine behind her rise. It's not easy. But Colson isn't here for easy. She's here for real. And right now, there's nothing more powerful than that. If you're watching this and you've been thinking, this league feels different lately, you're right. It is. And Sydney Colson is one of the biggest reasons why. So if you respect the courage it takes to speak up, to mentor with purpose, and to lead with truth, go ahead and hit that like button. If you think the WNBA needs more voices like Colson's and fewer sanitized narratives, drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to keep up with every twist, every unfiltered moment, and every future shockwave like this one, you know what to do. Subscribe, because the story's not over. Not even close. The ripple effect of Sydney Colson's admission didn't just stir conversation. It cracked open a conversation the WNBA's been dodging for years. This wasn't some surface-level shade or a passive-aggressive tweet. This was a veteran, a two-time champion, someone with real weight in the locker room and the league, standing up and saying, "This is what's really going on." She didn't whisper it. She didn't throw it in as a footnote. She admitted outright that she was paid to play a role in a narrative that wasn't hers. A narrative positioned around Caitlin Clark. A storyline built not just to elevate, but to divide. And that admission didn't just hit, it exploded. Because here's the truth that nobody wanted to say out loud until now. The WNBA has been playing chess with its own players. They saw the Caitlin Clark wave coming from miles away. A generational scorer, a media darling, a college icon with a built-in fan base that could bring new eyes to the league. She wasn't just a player, she was a package. And the league needed that package wrapped, presented, and protected. Fast. And what better way to make a star shine than by creating friction? By leaning into narratives of rookies versus vets, old school versus new school, traditional versus authentic. Drama sells. Rivalries sell. And when the public's watching for tension, the spotlight follows. So, Sydney Colson? She got cast as a contrast. But here's where it all unraveled. Colson never agreed to act. She's not scripted. She doesn't hit her marks and smile for the camera if it doesn't align with who she is. And that's exactly why her admission carried so much weight. It wasn't performative. It was protective. Because for all the noise around Caitlin Clark, the interviews, the hype, the backlash, Colson saw what was really happening. A young player was being handed the league before she had time to understand what that even meant. And the people around her, they were being pushed into corners to create a storyline they never asked to be in. And when Sydney Colson left Las Vegas to join the Indiana Fever, that wasn't just a team transfer. It was a message. She left a championship squad, a guaranteed contender, a comfortable setup, and chose a team that was still scraping together an identity. She didn't chase rings. She chased purpose. Colson saw a team that needed voice, culture, and heart. She saw a locker room trying to hold itself together under the weight of fame and pressure. She saw Caitlin Clark not as a rival or symbol, but as a young player being asked to carry too much too soon. So she stepped into the chaos, willingly, not to fix it, but to build something from it, to offer stability, mentorship, and perspective, to be the voice of reason when things started spinning. And the best part? She did it all while being fully herself. Unfiltered, unpolished, unbothered. Colson didn't show up in Indiana trying to be the savior. She showed up with jokes, honesty, and accountability. She brought that rare kind of leadership that doesn't come from titles or stats, but from connection. And her teammates felt it. The chemistry shifted. The locker room lightened. And most importantly, Caitlin Clark wasn't alone anymore. Because Colson didn't buy into the media narrative that said she and Clark were supposed to be on opposite sides. She rejected it. She went out of her way to support her, check on her, and show the world what leadership actually looks like. Not performative posturing, not shallow compliments in press conferences, but real human care. And that support? It wasn't subtle. Colson has consistently used her platform, whether through interviews, podcasts, or social media, to push back against the idea that the league should be divided between Clark fans and everyone else. She said it plainly. This isn't about one player. This is about the system. The same system that prioritizes marketability over merit, that overlooks queerness unless it's palatable, that sidelines personality unless it fits the mold, and that keeps pushing certain players to the center while asking others to fade quietly into support roles. Sydney Colson isn't fading. She never has. And now, she's louder than ever. And that matters. Because Colson isn't just a player. She's a cultural force. A disruptor. A leader who's redefined what success looks like in a league, still learning how to embrace all the parts of its identity. Her leadership doesn't show up in stat lines. It shows up in resilience, in the way she mentors rookies, in how she responds to criticism with humor and grace, in her refusal to be tokenized or sanitized, in her ability to make people laugh while also making them think. And when she talks about her queerness, her faith, her role as a mentor, it's never for applause. It's for impact. She understands how important it is for people watching, especially young, queer Black girls, to see someone thriving without conforming. She's not afraid to challenge the league's image because she cares about the league. That's the key. This isn't rebellion for rebellion's sake. This is someone who loves the game deeply and wants the space around it to reflect the players who've kept it alive for years. Players like her. When Colson calls out anti-Caitlin Clark agendas, she's not taking a shot at a teammate. She's taking a shot at the manipulation behind the scenes. The agendas that pit players against each other to keep fans engaged and clicks rolling. The system that says some identities are easier to sell than others, and quietly builds its marketing around that truth. And now, she's done pretending that doesn't exist. Her journey, leaving a championship team, stepping into chaos, mentoring a rising star, calling out league politics while embracing her full identity, isn't just a story. It's a blueprint for how athletes can lead beyond the court. It's a reminder that real leadership isn't about stats, status, or silence. It's about stepping into hard conversations. It's about being consistent, even when it's unpopular. And it's about choosing impact over comfort. Colson chose the harder road, on purpose. And in doing so, she's become a symbol for something bigger than basketball. Authenticity. She's proof that being yourself, fully yourself, isn't a liability. It's a superpower. And in a league built on resilience, where players have always had to fight for visibility, fairness, and respect, that superpower hits different. Because while others are waiting for permission, Colson's already moving, already building, already telling the truth before anyone else dares to. And whether the league likes it or not, the fans are listening. The players are watching. And the culture? It's shifting. So if you're tired of sanitized sports stories, of league-approved personalities, of watching genuine voices get drowned out by curated drama, then Sydney Colson's voice is the one to follow. Because she's not here to play along. She's here to change the entire game. What's wild is that even now, even after everything Sydney Colson has said, there are still people trying to downplay it, acting like her words were taken out of context, or worse, that she's exaggerating. But that's the thing about uncomfortable truths. People will do anything to avoid facing them, especially when it forces them to confront the way a system works in their favor. Colson didn't slip up. She didn't say something emotional in the heat of the moment. This was deliberate, strategic, clear. She said what she said because she knew people would try to spin it. She knew the league would stay quiet, and she knew the fans would be forced to sit with a truth that's been lingering for months now. The WNBA has a Caitlin Clark problem, not because Caitlin Clark did anything wrong, but because the machine around her is chewing up everything in its path. And that includes veteran players like Sydney Colson, who were suddenly handed the role of villain in a narrative designed to keep headlines hot and fans foaming at the mouth. And when Colson told the world she was paid to help shape that narrative, that wasn't drama. That was damage control. She's not trying to burn it all down. She's trying to fix what's broken before it collapses on the players it claims to uplift. Because let's talk real for a second. The way Caitlin Clark has been marketed is unprecedented for the WNBA. We're talking nonstop coverage, front-page headlines, game delays because of crowd sizes, and celebrities showing up courtside. That kind of attention is new for this league. And with it comes pressure, not just for Clark, but for every player not named Caitlin Clark. Because suddenly, it's not enough to be good. You gotta be media-friendly. You've got to say the right things, tweet the right way, avoid controversy at all costs, and support the narrative whether it includes you or not. And if you don't, you are jealous, hating, bitter. That's where Sydney Colson drew the line. Because she wasn't bitter. She was aware. Aware of the way veterans were being sidelined. Aware of how certain players were being treated like props to make the Clark show more compelling. Aware that no one behind the scenes was thinking about what that would do to team culture or to Clark herself. She watched as Caitlin became the centerpiece of every broadcast, every debate, every locker room conversation. And she watched how quickly the league expected everyone else to fall in line and act like that was normal. But Colson isn't wired that way. She doesn't do fake unity. She doesn't smile for the cameras if something feels off. And she definitely doesn't play along with narratives that create division within a league that already struggles with visibility and equity. So instead of going quiet, she got louder. And the fact that she chose to do that after leaving a championship team says everything. Sydney Colson walked away from what most athletes spend their entire careers chasing. And not because she couldn't hang in Vegas, because she wanted something more meaningful. She wanted to be part of something real. She wanted to help shape a team from the ground up, to mentor players who were still finding their rhythm, to stand beside someone like Caitlin Clark and say, you don't have to carry all of this alone, and you don't have to sell your soul for it either. And now it's all out in the open. She was paid to play into that dynamic, to participate in a structure that asked her to be someone she's not. But Colson's identity isn't for sale. Her queerness, her authenticity, her leadership, that's not branding. That's not marketable polish. That's who she is. And when the system tried to box her in, she stepped out of frame and started telling the truth. The league's silence in response? Deafening, but predictable. Because what do you say when one of your most respected veterans reveals that your organic storylines are actually orchestrated? That your rising star machine runs on the silence and cooperation of everyone else? You don't say anything. You wait for it to blow over. But the thing about Sydney Colson, she's not letting it blow over. Because she's not just here to expose the system. She's here to reshape it. And not with angry rants or dramatic takedowns, but with humor, empathy, and a deep understanding of how culture actually changes. It changes when someone refuses to play along. When someone stands up, even at the risk of losing favor or opportunity, and says, this isn't good enough. And that's what makes Colson's leadership so undeniable. She's not demanding a spotlight. She's protecting the future of the league. She's showing younger players that success doesn't have to come at the cost of your values. That being yourself loudly and honestly is not just allowed, it's necessary. And yes, that's messy. And yes, that ruffles feathers. But real change always does. She's challenging the WNBA to live up to its own message, to be as inclusive, authentic, and player-driven as it claims to be. And if that means calling out fake rivalries, so be it. If that means defending Caitlin Clark while also criticizing how she's being used, so be it, because nuance exists. And Sydney Colson lives in that space. She's not anti-Clark. She's anti-manipulation, anti-division, anti-narratives that use identity as currency and leave players bruised in the process. She's fighting for a league where players are more than marketing tools, where rookies are given support, not just attention, and where veterans aren't expected to quietly disappear once they've served their time. That's what this is all about. Not drama, not jealousy, dignity. And if the league can't see that, if fans can't hear that beneath the noise, then maybe we don't deserve players like Sydney Colson. But we have her, right now, and she's not backing down. So if you made it this far and you see the cracks too, if you want a WNBA that truly values all of its players, not just the ones who fit a narrative, then show it. Like this video, comment with your take, whether you're fired up, confused, or finally seeing the bigger picture. And hit subscribe, because Sydney Colson just forced this league into a moment of reckoning. And something tells me this is only the beginning.